It has been described as a meat grinder, hell on earth, and likened to the darkest days of the First World War. And last week, we were given fresh insight into the battle for Bakhmut as footage emerged of elite Ukrainian troops known as Da Vinci's Wolves desperately defending the last road out of the city. The Wolves were defending what's known as the Highway of Life. This route is vital for Ukraine to ferry supplies to its troops on the front line and hold the increasingly small section, the city, they control. Losing it would mean losing the city itself, stranding potentially thousands of troops for Russia to wipe out. This is the story of Da Vinci's Wolves, another elite unit called Kraken, the monks' long battle for Bakhmut's last lifeline, and the extraordinary bravery of the troops defending it. The party line in Kiev is that the Ukrainians' dogged defense of Bakhmut is part of a master plan to bleed Putin's forces dry while the long-awaited spring counteroffensive is prepared. Critics believe President Zelensky is irrationally holding the city while paying an unacceptable cost in casualties and equipment. Reports of brutal human-wave assaults and vicious urban combat have grabbed the headlines, but perhaps more important are the ongoing battles taking place outside of the city itself. Beginning in late January, Russian forces launched a pincer attack to the north and south of Bakhmut to try and cut off Ukraine's main supply routes. One of those routes is a narrow, winding 506 road which leads northwest out of Bakhmut to the nearby Ukrainian stronghold of Chasiv Yar. The other is the 504, which heads southwest. This road is wider, flatter, and easier to pass, which makes it ideal for moving heavy military kit and wounded soldiers. That's why the 504 has become known as the Highway of Life. By late February, both of these roads were in Russia's crosshairs. Having seized the city of Soledar to the north of Bakhmut, Prigozhin's Wagner mercenaries were bearing down on the 506. Meanwhile, more Russian units were sweeping along the 504 to the south, almost reaching Chasiv Yar itself. Kirilo Budanov, head of the Ukrainian military intelligence, summed up the situation at the time as catastrophic and feared Bakhmut could soon be cut off. Desperate to avoid defeat, he is thought to have deployed an elite special forces unit known only as Kraken to drive the Russians back. The move was not ideal, as Ukraine was trying to hold its best units back for the counteroffensive, but ultimately it worked. Brutal footage that emerged around this time showed Ukrainian Special Forces snipers taking out a Russian demolition crew near one of the roads. By mid-March, the pincer had stalled. Both routes were kept open, but neither of them were completely safe. To this day, both roads remain well within the range of Russian artillery, which has regularly attacked convoys passing along them. Since late March, the 506 has been under particularly heavy pressure. Videos reveal lines of destroyed trucks, Humvees and armoured vehicles along the route, and in early April, drone footage showed a whole convoy had been wiped out in one go. The 506 is now thought to be impassable, with heavy fighting ongoing in a network of Ukrainian trenches just to the north of it. If Russia is able to seize those trenches, it will not only close the 506 for good, but it will also put Putin's troops on high ground overlooking the 504, or the Highway of Life. That would turn the road into a shooting gallery, leaving Ukrainian troops in Bakhmut surrounded. So, Ukraine is giving everything it has to defend the area. This heroic effort was captured on camera last week as a band of soldiers were filmed fighting off Russians who had stormed their trenches. Video showed a unit known as the Da Vinci Wolves sheltering in a bunker with the dead body of one of their comrades when an explosion knocked another man off his feet. A moment later, radio messages came in that Russians were trying to storm nearby trenches, prompting the unit to charge into action under a hail of bullets. One soldier, with the call sign Tihi, filmed himself taking out a squad of Russians crawling between splintered trees before the wolves got stuck into a vicious firefight. As artillery shells exploded around them, the men slowly but surely took out the Russians while their comrades recaptured the trenches.
Ты смотришь 12. Пацаны, держим траншею 12, сейчас будет работать арта.
The commander of the Da Vinci Wolves, Dmitrio Kostobailo, was killed in the fighting in early March, triggering a huge funeral in Kiev. While some have labelled his unit far right, there is no doubt that they are among Ukraine's most elite fighters. That battle provides just a snapshot of daily life in Bakhmut, where commanders say the front line is now constantly shifting. Russian soldiers attack, advance a few hundred meters, and are then pushed back hours later. Control over the highway of life changes several times per day. Ukraine may have free rein over the road in the morning, lose it in the afternoon, and then take it back again before nightfall. That means vital supplies into Bakhmut are being interrupted, with ammunition running perilously low. Colonel Pavlo Palisa, who is in charge of the city's defence, has revealed that some mortar crews are limited to firing just 6 rounds per day. Other troops have been forced to abandon positions in the city centre because they simply do not have the bullets to defend them. That has allowed Wagner fighters to advance through Bakhmut, with Ukraine now defending a small area of just 20 streets centred around the highway of life. Palisa is determined to hold on. When he arrived in the city in January, he was told Bakhmut would fall within weeks. 3 months later, he is still fighting. His men are praying a Ukrainian counterattack comes soon, but exactly where and when that will happen is not clear. One thing, though, is certain. For Bakhmut to survive, the highway of life has to stay open. Palisa and his men will need to give everything they've got to defend it. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to hit like and subscribe below.